Hello, hello. We are here for our weekly anchor message. The will of destiny cut me from the floor today, so you guys can follow along in suspense, just the same as the rest of my crew. Who's working today? Who isn't? So, it gave me a chance to. Well, I'm gonna finish my 2025 manifestation list. We plan and God laughs today. So meta, right? It's like trying to get the list done, haha, like you're gonna do that, and then also the manifestations for the year. I feel like every January the joke is that by week 2 of January people are posting these things that imply that oh my god, this year has already aged me 10 years. But I forget every year that Capricorn season is one of the most negatively charged times of year as far as chaos and upheaval and testing and pressure and having all your fears and ego and rigidness and lack of discipline, all of it, all your problems are presented to you so poignantly. So yeah, there's been all of this global everything, and then Donald Trump's speech was today, and it's just ugh. And it was Martin Luther King Day, which made it extra ugh, we're just it just, couldn't you have done it a different day? No, he definitely wanted to do it today. So I think there's just this heaviness that's just striking so hard today. And also there is a Cazimi with Pluto conjunct with the sun. And so, that makes so much sense too, that it's this, or, it's night and day, light and dark, just facing off, and all of this death and transformation, the energy of Kali, that bringer of the dark, severe feminine, supernal feminine that has to come in and break down what is in order to reveal what is becoming. Through restriction. And so it's just seeing this death and rebirth, but also on everything that we think that we know, on everything that we think we're so sure about. It's what has not been revealed is being revealed, and there's so much that we don't see. So just really heavy. I don't know, I feel the last couple of weeks, ever since even before the Cancer full moon, it was I was almost praying is a good word, praying on a daily basis for the fires in LA, and then just so much other things, and then all of the political implications of what may be about to transpire is about to hit. And it's so funny that the TikTok ban barely registered. I didn't take it seriously because I knew it wasn't real or something about it. And what I think really is probably that it was just a stunt that was probably something that was going to happen anyway, and it was probably timed exactly enough to where it would look like we were going to lose this big app. All these people, it's people were don't you understand? People have built their businesses on this. And they're yes, exactly. That's why we're going to extort you right now. You manipulating your fear. Any minute we can take this away. And then look who comes in 9 hours later, the big hero. Ooh, did you guys notice that the first thing I did was get something done super fast, and I gave you back your favorite platform? So who do you think he's pandering to in this, right? So here I did this big thing and everything's okay now, but we're all yeah, but now we still feel spied on, but who's spying on us now? And I'm not cheaply bought. Thank goodness the app is fine. Oh my god, we've been saved. Not, it's yeah, the app's still here. It was never gone. Just a bunch of shady shit happened, and they pulled they pulled a fast one. They did a diversion. They had us look over here, they swapped the thing. It was under the hat the whole time, kind of situation. So that's happened, and And notice how it was just long enough for people on a Sunday night to feel like their business was plummeting, but not long enough for them to get into work early enough to make any drastic moves that would put any, big people out of business. So it was just like, and this is why today's reading is so poignant and so important. So, before I get into it, I was just thinking, I was getting at the fact that I've been feeling the grief and the outrage and the pain of humanity. And I can't remember whether it was in The Power of Now or A New Earth that Eckhart Tolle, I say Tolle, I think I've heard him, announced by Oprah as Eckhart Tolle. I feel like I've heard his apps advertised as Eckhart Tolle, but everybody says Eckhart Tolle. It's one of those things that feels very uncomfortable to say, and so I just needed to say that before. Anyway, Eckhart, one of the books that he wrote, it was talking about how women, during our menses, when we're feeling the grief and the death and the suffering and all of that we feel, and the pain, the physical pain, the emotional pain, the existential crisis that we face every time, we're like, it's all over, it's all gone, it's slipping away. And then when you finally start your period, you're like, oh, that's what was happening all along. Oh my God, I was about to start my period. But actually what's going on before that, our premenstrual phase that we dismiss, I've just been crazy. No, we're actually not. We're doing a very sacred performative act of sacrifice for humanity. And we're witnessing the pain on behalf of the collective conscious. And so it is it's an act of sacrifice that therein makes it an act of alchemy, that we're processing the great shared pain of the human collective soul. So, we've been talking about on this channel that there's this mystical experience one might have called the holy vision of sorrow, in which a person has this level of awakening where the veil is pulled back and our distraction is pulled away and our numbness is pulled away, and we can see the world for exactly what it is and what it's becoming and where we're headed and what it could have been, what it has the potential to be and what it isn't. And you see this tragedy and you feel the weight of what we've done, what kind of stewards we've been as human beings. Everything in creation tried to warn God from creating us. The letters of the Torah were like, don't do it. Humankind, you see this beauty before you? Humanity will destroy this completely. And God was like, you can't tell me what to do. They're like, you are going to be so angry at them. You're going to be wrathful. And God said, did they not call me long suffering for nothing? And the angels, there were some angels that said, don't do it. You leave it with the animals, leave it with the waterfalls and the mountains, but don't create the people, because you will regret it. They will despise you even. They're going to ruin everything. And then God struck those angels out of their position, and he, made them servants for the other side. And so he took them out of their high place and he put them into a very undesirable place, because God loves man. God loves us. And even though he knew we were inherently flawed, he was going to be there for us every step of the way, just for the second that we make the right choice. That, yes, okay, you've changed that darkness, great. We've got that out of the way. I'm here, I'm supporting you, I'm guiding you every step of the way, but you've got to keep your vessel open. You've got to keep the connection strong so that you can hear me. And in order to do that, you've got to resonate with this channel, this radio station, this frequency. If you can be like this frequency, then you can stay protected by it. You can stay connected to it. You can stay fulfilled by it. But when you are afraid, when you're confused, when you're judgmental or prejudiced or in a state of hate or despair, you disconnect from this frequency. So we have to train that muscle, that skill of being able to stay in affinity with the light, to maintain awareness of the state of our consciousness so that we can choose to shift it back into a consciousness that shares affinity with the light of the Creator, and that we can maintain that consciousness in our emotions so that we're not easily manipulated. So all of this is going on, all of this rant to say, I can't remember where I started or where I sidetracked, and if I lost any points along the way, but here we are. And so oh my God, and David Lynch, like, I love David Lynch. Oh yes, our suffering, our sacrifice on behalf of others is very powerful. It can be very uplifting to humanity when we cry for another and when we sacrifice for another. But what we're doing is we're becoming vessels, better vessels for channeling the light. And that is to become like the light and to become a vessel to receive for the sake of sharing, not to receive for the self alone, and not to receive instant gratification. So, and then David Lynch died, which I consider him a modern day Khalil Gibran type. He was a spiritual mystic and artist who had a very important perspective to share with the world. And I think that he showed us a lot and introduced us to a lot of the unseen realms, the ideas that there's more there than meets the eye. So God loves us. God is trying to guide us, and that's why we have to strengthen the instruments that we have within us to hear that guidance and to connect with that guidance and to be able to recognize that guidance from all the other noise that's happening at any given time. That's what we do here as a daily practice. So I hope that we, continue to build our skills, because I think we're going to need them now more than ever. So our wild unknown archetypes for the week are the underworld, which immediately in this I saw Pluto, Pluto, death and resurrection and rebirth and renewal. But, definitely those Scorpio kind of energies as well as the underworld, right? And the non-physical and the astral realms that we're dealing with. So followed by the Lover. And when I saw this card today, I did not really resonate or connect with its usual implication of this new love interest coming into your life, a lover, someone who can see you intimately. But more so, I saw the Lover's card, the major arcana card from the tarot. And the reason I saw that is because the swan in her other decks, particularly, it points out that the swan can go beneath the surface. Or maybe I'm just fusing that together from all of the symbology behind the aquatic birds. But the swan has the longest neck, right? And so it can go down into the depths and reach down to grab nourishment. So it can plumb the subconscious as well as living on the surface. The swan goes through a dramatic transformation from when it begins into the state of maturity. So we are here in a state of we've been transformed. We've been enlightened to a certain degree. We have a pearl of wisdom that we can cling to and hang our consciousness on, right? And so the Lover's card is all about being at a Y point in the road and making choices led from the heart, and not the sentimental heart that can be corrupted by our sentiments and our notions and our desires and our wounds, but our soul's or our spirit's heart of hearts. That inner chamber, that inner bridal chamber that the Bible talks about, the Holy of Holies, the seat of the soul. And so We have to be able to tune inward to that heart, to listen to the guidance coming through, and to tune in to that guidance from Holy Spirit to direct our choices and our direction in this life, because we're going into a time where things as we knew it are going to be no more. There's major transformation happening. We're leaving the age of Pisces. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. We've left the old timeline. We're moving into the new timeline, right? And so we have also followed by, let's just get back to this, the unseen. And then here is the sustainer. So we are in this new timeline, and I like to think of life as a couple of different metaphors that are helpful for us to work with as active participants or players in the game or in the drama playing out. So we think of life a lot of times as an interactive game, like a video game, like that we're in first player. Or we also think of life as like a Netflix series about us, and we're the main character, right? So when the old timeline was coming to a close, we were talking about that in terms of like the show is getting canceled, the series is coming to an end, there's not even a real total finale, it's just sort of a cliffhanger that it gets left on, and everyone's panicking, and everyone appeals to the network, and yay, the show gets picked back up. Life, the show, is going to go on, right? But this time, there's like new writers, and they don't have to go by the former canon of the old script. The characters can be motivated by all new things. They don't have to go by their old dynamics and their old motivations and their old drama and their old character files, right? So anything's possible. It's anybody's game. And maybe some characters are going to go away and some characters are going to stay on and new characters are going to come in. But we don't have to relate the way that we used to anymore. And so we've been waiting for the series to really kick off again. You know, we were in pre-production and, you know, kind of getting our lives like, you know, changing the things that needed to change, cutting cords, clearing paths, and making big changes. And then this past year, it was like, 2024 was like, I had to think about it for a minute. I was like, are we in 2025 now? Are we? Like, I'm losing it. Oh, yeah, we are. Okay, it's just so much has happened. I think I saw a dragon. Okay, so we're in 2025. So 2024 was about like the first season of a series when you get introduced to a character and you're kind of getting to know like them and their family and their friends and their environment, and if they go to school or if they go to work, or like what is the current lay of the land for them. And you get an idea of like some scenario that will kind of give you a clue as to who they are in the current like context of their life, who the people are around them, and kind of what they're about and what they do. Then season 2 is like, there's a plot twist at the end of season 1. It kind of leaves you going into like what's going to happen next season kind of thing. And this is where the characters like get more developed and the plot gets juicier and they're like, you know, called to some sort of adventure or journey. And this is where we see the outer adventure sort of change, but the inner journey of self-discovery and awakening and self-realization starts to get juicier as well. So I would say that this year, 2025, is like season 2 of the new series. Now, if you look at series as one big story arc, they're kind of like a very unpacked version of a screenplay. They're like very spaced out. And so if you're looking at life like a movie or any given story that we find ourselves in, if we're looking at life like a movie, then at the beginning of a movie, in the first 10 minutes, this is the introduction where you're being introduced to the characters and you're getting to know them and where they are in the context of their life and their world. And 10 minutes in, there's what's called the plot point of first plot point, and that's in Act 1, where the character's life gets turned upside down somehow. And this is their call to adventure, which leads them into the meat of the movie where they're teaming up with someone to confront the issue at hand. And they have this outer adventure, but on the inside, they go through an internal journey as well. And there is like the subplot is like who they become and what they learn. So we're in plot point 1 right now. Basically, like Pluto's Cazimi with the sun today, Trump going in and making this big speech, and like things like are beginning to pop off. It's like we entered season 2 in the midst of like the West Coast craziness, right? Actually, more like, you know, it felt like the end of season 1 was the big story around Luigi, and that kind of gave us a cliffhanger and almost like a little insight into, okay, what's going to be at the forefront of people, like, you know, what's being exposed right now. Depending on what genre of the show, like the filter that you're looking at it, it's like really a lot of genres that we're in right now. Now, you know, we're in like the sci-fi political action thriller. So then we watch all this stuff in the West Coast playing out, and now all of this. And so I feel like this moment is a plot point. And that is this underworld thing where what we knew in the former timeline is getting turned upside down. And like we're going to be inundated with stuff in social media now because there's not, like, they said they're not going to do the fact checking anymore. Like, no big deal. We're not going to even attempt at like journalistic responsibility, or we're just going to let people say whatever. So we have to be very, and then we've got AI able to like fabricate, you know, images and videos, and people's voices are now being used for spam, like these clickbait videos, you know, that you think you're listening to Johnny Depp tell you about why your man isn't committing to you. And you're like, would Johnny Depp even be talking about this? Like, you start to have to ask yourself when you start to listen to anything. I've seen so many videos on Brene Brown voiceover, and it's AI, and it's like, this is not Brene Brown's like soul voice. This is not what she would be saying or how she would be saying it. So you've really got to get savvy, you know, and look beneath the surface, even of just like what is fake and what is real, what is being subtly manipulated. So when you see anything on the news or things in the feed, only pick out like what are hardcore facts, and like leave all the commentary and all the extra fluff around it. Like don't start reading into any of that. Cut all that noise out. But what you can prove that is like actual factual things happening, like take that information and then use what your gut is telling you to know really the depth of what is going on. But be very careful about the tone that you're picking up on and buying into, because it's going to be very on purpose and very directed. In fact, I think it's safe to assume that anytime there's a big event happening in the world or in quantum in a certain areas of the world, when you see things happening in your local area of the world and it's being blown up and everybody's, you know, it's got everybody in an emotional panic or stir or upheaval, you can bet there was a reason that it happened, and that it was planned on purpose, and that there is an agenda behind it, and that it's getting us either distracted or worked up or divided. But there is a reason why it's happening other than just the fact that it's happening. So that's just a good baseline to live at now. Question everything that you see and hear. And you more than ever need to develop your own inner sense of intuition, because every one of us has it, and the truth is like that initial gut. It's not a feared voice. It's not a panic voice. It's not a FOMO, buy now, do this or else. It is a very quiet, very calm, very sane, gentle knowing. And you have to be able to trust that voice. You are getting the truth from inside. You will never now assume that you can't even get the truth from looking from the outside, because we're never getting the full objective true story. And so that's why we have to learn to tune into that inner depth that's coming straight from the Holy Spirit, that's below even our conscience, because what we have here is we've got all the noise. We've got our impressionableism and our fear. Like when we get stirred up, when they can, stir up our emotions, we're easily manipulated. People fall into groupthink. They want to be reassured. They want the comfort of the, camaraderie. And so it's very easy to get, once you get a group that feels threatened or threatened or sentimental, getting people all like gung-ho about something, like be very careful about falling into any of these things. So that's why it's extra important right here, the Lover's card, that we go inward when we see what's going on the outside, and we look for that guidance, because even our conscience can be corruptible at this point, because it's going to be played, all our emotions are going to be played on. So on this channel, we've been working for a long time to become emotionally sovereign, right? Emotionally sober, mastered over our thoughts and our mental landscape. And this is because we've been training for times like these, essentially. So dress rehearsal's over. The rubber is hitting the road, people. So pay attention, but don't get caught up in dramas and propaganda and sentimentalism. Be careful about every single commercial with the symphony behind it. Like, think about how you can suddenly get all emotional about like a generator, just be aware of how they so formulaically manipulate you with some music and some background and some language, right? So having said that, making choices from the heart. The unseen card is both our connection to the unseen, so that we can be guided by our higher power, our creator, right? Our guardian angels, the Holy Spirit, the Jesus Christ, like having Christ consciousness. Let that guide you. Pay attention to what Jesus said, not Christianity, not the church. You've got to, that has been infiltrated now, and the loudest voice in those circles has been politicized. So you have to go even beyond what organized institutions are going to tell you. This is why we talk about being your own sovereign, right? Because you can't trust the establishment to take care of you. Because anytime there are these big giant systems, people are pulling the strings from somewhere, right? So think about it. There's a lot of mega churches now where these pastors are just going through these fast food theology schools. They're buying their sermons from copywriters. Yes, that is a whole niche of copywriting, to write sermons for people to buy, to preach to their congregations. They buy curriculums. It's not like they're anointed, or called by God to lead this church. There was a career path for them. And so who do you think is leading the themes in these, commercial curriculums for these churches? So, this is why you have to take matters into your own ownership, being your own sovereign. And the way that you establish that without it being corruptible is to know who the ultimate sustainer is, right? When you know that your job is not what's paying you, God is paying you. When you know that your fire alarm is not what's keeping your house safe, God is what's keeping your house safe. When you know that whatever happens, right? No matter what you try to do, it's the vessel is only a channel for the light. And so the vessel is not saving us. The light is saving us. So the institution is not our provider, is not our sustainer. God is our provider, our sustainer. And so that's why when we are, when other people are confused and afraid and they're looking to the institution to save them or to help them or tell them what to do, and then that's what makes them easily manipulated and compliant, you will know what to do, and you can act in faith, in trust, knowing that the Creator will make sure that you're taken care of when you follow your inner compass, and you are impeccable with your truth and integrity. We're getting to a time where we have to be impeccable with our truth and our integrity now, because it has there are greater implications at stake, like all the energetic influences that we add to the pile matter now. They matter a lot. This is like the scales are being tipped right now. This is a battle for light and darkness, and we can't overcorrect by making it a tit for tat or fighting against one another. We have to fight the evil by unifying humanity and becoming one and awakening through love, not division. So the Page of Wands here, in the midst of all of this change and upheaval and chaos, you have to look closer at what's going on, and you have to come at this from a beginner's mind, from a place of being energized and almost having to adopt like a sense of adventure and curiosity, or else you can't let yourself fall into despair. You can't get overly disturbed by everything that's happening on every level. So it's like we have to try to kind of come at this with a sense of strength, and wherever we can in our lives, keep a sense of play and curiosity alive, and adventure and adventure alive within us, because what we don't want is to become bored and complacent zombies in our depression and just become like what they want is for us to all be depressed, because when you're depressed, you can't take action, you can't do anything, you don't have the willpower, right? You don't have like the desire to do anything. I found myself like this past couple of weeks just wanting to like rot into the couch, just like in Never Ending Story when the horse goes down into that tar pit, right? And I'm like, no, we don't have the luxury to just bemoan what's happening and rot away. We don't. We have to be out of the ethereal, wanting to drift off where it's better, and be boots on the ground where we're needed. So we have to stay with it and keep that youthful spirit and not feel like 1,000 years old. And we have to continue to march to the beat of our own drum and be the sovereign of our own spirit and our own soul. The King of Wands is industrious and he has fervor, and he has authority and grit, and he has passion, but he's a spiritual sovereign over himself. The wands is about the connection we have to spirit, and so it also bleeds into our success within industry and how we go after our pursuits, but also our connection and to our faith. And so we have to be courageous now and march to the beat of our own drum and let that burn with great fervor. And I think that it is not actually any accident that Martin Luther King Day was today, because so many people were spreading like Martin Luther King's message of brotherhood and forgiveness and not hating your enemy, as he was marching in to do civil acts of disobedience. And so just like that, like focus on the fact that it was actually good. This is exactly what certainty does. It's like when you're faced with a situation that looks so blasphemous and terrible, like this was meant to be a slap in the face. But actually it ended up being they were hoisted by their own petard, because when you look for the silver lining, when you look for the positive, actually what's been flooding the streams has been the inspiring words of Martin Luther King. and the hopeful direction that he left humanity with. So, continuing on, we have to connect now to spirit on a daily basis to have that spiritual and emotional renewal, so that we can keep a fighting spirit, to keep moving forward, to keep channeling in the light for the sake of mankind, for the sake of our planet, for the sake of perpetuating human life in any state of light and goodness. So we have to, tune in to that source for our fulfillment, for our peace, for our renewal, for our hope. It's got to be something that we do every day, to make that practice something that we realize sustains us morning, noon, night, to check in and replenish ourselves, because we're going to need that. We're going to need that strength. We're going to need that emotional renewal. And we have the sustainer here with the Fool, which I love this because in Eileen Conley's Tarot for the Apprentice, the major arcana cards are associated with Bible verses. And the Fool card, I believe, is associated with, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thou preparest a table before me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. They leadeth me beside still waters. They restoreth my soul. So, I can't remember, I think it's the Shepherd's Prayer is that psalm. But to read that and to have that on hand, I think is going to be very helpful. But that is generally the message of the Fool card. It's to put our trust in the Creator, like an infant does, put their life in the hands of their caretaker. They have no choice but to trust, because they're completely helpless on their own. And so are we. But the Fool goes forward on the path with like this enthusiasm and optimism, and the clean slate of the infant that has that trust that they're being held. And even though there are threats hidden along the path that we can't see very clearly because they blend in, right? They're hidden. But we're going to be protected because we're being guided by a light. We're being guided by that inner light. And we know that when we are threatened by things that are scary and that threaten our security, we know that the ultimate sustainer, what's really sustaining us, is the Creator. And so we can trust in that and act in faith, knowing that the means will be provided. Well, it is a heavy day. I think that this has been a heavy message, but I think overall it is hopeful and comforting and reassuring that God is with us through all things, every second of every day, and every thought that we have, and every fear that we have, and every moment that we feel overwhelmed. God is there. And so God is like the sun, eternally emanating and sharing and wanting to connect with us and fill us with vitality and joy and illumination. But we're like the moon, we have our phases where we're completely filled and then we're completely empty. And so it's we that through our consciousness, we can connect with that light. But like we said earlier, it's like a radio station. It's like a signal that you have to build affinity with. You have to be able to resonate with that frequency in order to channel it through. So subscribe to the channel. This is what we do here. This is the work that we do, is we try to build these skills. And also the 2025 prediction series, I'm going to keep bringing it up maybe for the rest of the year, but you can always buy that at any time. It's going to be an amazing reference point and reference tool to use throughout the year, but you've got a yearly overview and quarterly overviews and monthly readings, and each one of the videos has a series of questions that will help you align your consciousness and face the particular challenges of each month, and hopefully take advantage of the opportunities offered in each month as well. This year is a mixed bag for sure. And so I think already being prepared for January has helped immensely, because I think that I have faced a lot of tests that would have normally left me in a state of anxiety and fear throughout the entire month of January, but instead I've been in real peace and stillness, other than the fact that I've been like mourning for mankind. But for me personally, I felt fairly safe and secure and really grateful and appreciative, so, and at peace. So if you guys want to download that, it is in the description box below. The link is under 2025 prediction series. And if I were you, I would use Chrome browser to go to Stan's shop, because I think that it might have been freezing on people that use Safari. Otherwise, like this video, comment, share it, subscribe. Any action that you take on this video will help it get out to other people that need to hear this as well. All right, thank you. Ciao.